Freddie Mercury had 4 teeth that shouldn't exist. Every dentist who saw them said the same thing: remove them immediately. Freddie refused for his entire life, and the reason he gave changed how the world understands his voice. Look closely at photographs of Freddie Mercury from the 1970s and early 1980s. In almost every one, his hand is near his mouth, sometimes covering it, sometimes half raised, as if he caught himself mid-smile and pulled back. Freddie Mercury, a man who commanded stadiums, who wore yellow military jackets and white leotards in front of 100,000 people, was deeply self-conscious about one thing: his teeth. He knew people noticed. He knew it was the first thing many journalists mentioned, and for his entire career, he carried that awareness on stage with him every single night. The condition is called hyperdontia. It means a person grows more teeth than the standard 32. In Freddie's case, 4 extra teeth developed in his upper jaw, crowding the others, pushing them forward, creating the distinctive overbite that defined his appearance. It is not a rare condition. It is not dangerous. And in most cases, the solution is straightforward. A dentist removes the extra teeth, the remaining ones are corrected over time, and the patient moves on with their life. For virtually anyone else, this would have been a routine procedure, scheduled and forgotten. Freddie Mercury scheduled nothing. He refused every time the subject came up, and he never explained why. Not publicly, not for years. The medical recommendation was consistent. Every dental professional who examined Freddie said the same thing: the extra teeth needed to come out. The overcrowding would only worsen. The correction would be straightforward. The result would be dramatic. By the late 1970s, Freddie was one of the most famous musicians on the planet. He had access to the best dental care in London. He had the money, the time, and every practical reason to have it done. And he understood what was being recommended. He wasn't avoiding it out of ignorance or fear of the procedure. He was avoiding it for a reason that had nothing to do with his appearance and everything to do with what came out of his mouth when he opened it to sing. Freddie Mercury believed his teeth were responsible for his voice. Specifically, he believed that the 4 extra teeth had altered the shape and size of his oral cavity, the space inside his mouth, behind his lips, above his tongue. That additional space, he thought, functioned like an expanded resonance chamber, the way a larger body on a guitar produces a fuller sound, the way a concert hall sounds different from a small room. He believed his mouth was built differently from other singers, and that the difference was not a flaw. It was the source. Fix the teeth, and you change the cavity. Change the cavity, and you change the voice. And Freddie Mercury was not willing to risk that. Not for comfort. Not for appearances. Not for anyone. The human voice is not produced by the vocal cords alone. The cords generate the initial sound, but what gives a voice its character, its richness, its carrying power, is what happens after that. The sound travels through the throat, the mouth, the nasal passages, bouncing off surfaces shaped by the architecture of the spaces it moves through. Singers and vocal coaches call these resonance chambers. A larger oral cavity creates more room for sound to develop before it leaves the body. It changes the overtones, the subtle frequencies that sit above the main note and give a voice its warmth, its depth, its ability to fill a room without amplification. Freddie Mercury's theory about his own teeth was not mystical. It was anatomical. And it was not entirely wrong. In 2016, a team of researchers published a scientific analysis of Freddie Mercury's voice. What they found was unusual. His vocal range extended across approximately 3.5 to 4 octaves, far beyond the average professional singer. But the range itself was not the most remarkable finding. What distinguished Freddie's voice, according to the researchers, was the way he produced sound. A rapid, irregular vibrato, unlike almost any other recorded voice, and an ability to shift between registers with a fluidity that most singers cannot train into existence. The researchers noted that the physical structure of a singer's resonance chambers plays a significant role in these qualities. They could not confirm that Freddie's extra teeth were the cause, but they could not rule it out either. There is a version of Freddie Mercury's life in which he has the procedure done in 1975 after Bohemian Rhapsody, when he can afford the best care and his career is already secured. In that version, his teeth are corrected, his smile changes, his self-consciousness eases, and nobody ever thinks about it again. That version doesn't exist because Freddie Mercury made a calculation that very few people make. He decided that the possibility of losing something in his voice was more important than certainty about his appearance. He spent his entire career covering his mouth in photographs. He spent his entire career singing in a way that no one before or since has fully replicated. He chose the voice every time. Brian May has spoken many times about what it was like to stand next to Freddie Mercury on stage and hear his voice from a few feet away. Unmiked, unprocessed, just the raw sound of the man. He has described it as something that could not be prepared for, even after years of performing together. Roger Taylor has said that Freddie's voice was the band. That Queen without that voice would have been an entirely different proposition. Whether Freddie's 4 extra teeth were the cause of any of that remains, in the strictest scientific sense, unproven. But Freddie believed it. He protected it with every decision he made about his own body. And the voice he was protecting, the one he refused to risk, is still, decades after his death, considered by many to be the greatest in the history of rock music. Freddie Mercury once said, "I won't be a rock star. I'll be a legend." He kept that promise. If this story surprised you, there's more where that came from. Subscribe, and we'll tell you the ones history forgot.